Hello once again, everybody. It's finally here. This is the last leg of the 2023 Darwyn Danesh Memorial Flight. Feels a bit surreal to me, at least. It's, a pilot on this to finally reach this point. But let's forget all that for a moment. Just appreciate that the sun is shining today on us for our flight over to Victoria Harbor. And I'd like to thank everyone who's joined in these streams, anyone who donated, anyone who just read about Darwyn and his story for having done so. I'd like to thank Darwyn's family for being so supportive with helping to set this up and plan all this. I'd like to thank my own family for helping me and supporting me getting prepared for this flight. And I'd also like to thank all of those who just came and watched. Anyone who dropped a message in the chat, anyone who looked at the Instagram stories and dropped a like on that, or dropped a like on one of the posts about it, anyone who liked to post about it on Reddit, and anyone who just popped by for a short while. Thank you for doing it, and please, I would ask you to consider doing it again next time when we could hopefully do something like this again next year. For now, though, I'm not going to keep you waiting too long. We're going to get this bird all set up to go. Got our nav lights on. Over here we can verify we have a route. And we're all good there. Route is loaded in. Bit of proper mixture. Magneto set to both. To start out, we're actually going to start on the middle tank, verify our fuel. That's correct. Be cruising at about 5,000 feet today. Don't need that for now. And so with that, with this giant cruise ship right here next to us, just going to verify we're currently at 284. That's about correct on here. So let's go ahead and get her started. Pumping 3 and 4. Start. And there we go. We have a successful engine start. Our rudders, as you can see, are in the water. So we'll go ahead, get our power set, and start taxiing out. Now that the engine is on, beacon lights have to come on. You can see a bit of a mist here in Vancouver this morning, just over the city. We're looking over at North Van over here. Really quite picturesque, actually. Got our flap set. Takeoff setting is correct. Just going to taxi out here, give ourselves a bit of space. There we go. Beautiful streaks of sun coming in from the right-hand side here. All right. As we're taxiing out into the open water, usually in real life in this part of Vancouver, this would be absolutely teeming with massive container ships right now, but thankfully we don't have to worry about that. Although there is one over there, it seems. So we're just going to go ahead, get ourselves turned in the right direction for takeoff. Oh, that is not what I wanted. Parking brake, go back in. All right. Just going to get our little heading pipper set on 290. All right, and with that, we can add some power. Rudder comes out. And we are airborne. Alright, and as we're climbing, just going to reduce our power settings to climb power here. Set our flaps to climb. Continue our climb out here. We're just coming over the Lions Gate Bridge, which looks beautiful in the morning sun over here. Alright, and we're continuing to climb. Go ahead and get this on. Set this to 600 for our climb. Ask it to maintain our heading now for us. As we're climbing out, you can get a nice view of Stanley Park here. You can see downtown Vancouver just behind it. Okay. Now we got some altitude. We're going to go ahead, set nav on our autopilot. We can begin our turn onto our routing to Victoria. Gorgeous sun out today in force. So as we return to the cockpit, so we're just setting up here to intercept our route. You can really see the extent of the city below. With downtown stretching all the way out into the burbs. Vancouver is absolutely massive. We seem to forget. Continue the climb. We're just coming through 2,000 feet here. As you can see on the FMC, it'll take us about half an hour to get to Victoria. During that time, we're going to descend a bit, get down close to the ground so that we can get a good view of Victoria from above as we're coming in to Victoria Harbor. As we're continuing, you can see the city behind us now. You look over there, it's quite a lot of detail. That is where the Canucks play, ice hockey team, I believe, which is I think it's Rogers Arena. I'm not sure though; it's been a while, so don't quote me on that. And we're beginning our turn now, which means you intercept the route. And right over there, actually behind us, is Granville Island. I used to go there quite a lot as a kid, back when I would visit her when I used to live in Canada. Interesting place to check out for some food and some sights and walking around markets if that's your sort of thing. Very interesting stuff there. And right here below us is Vancouver International Airport, YVR, for those of you who are familiar. Recently being redone on the inside in some parts of the terminal. If you didn't think it was beautiful before, it's definitely a beautiful terminal now to go to. So if you're in Vancouver, I'd recommend you check it out. As we'll continue right on there, we will see Tsawwassen, where the Vancouver BC Ferries terminal is. So for those of you who like ferries, you'll get to see some ferry action from above, at least. There you go. You can see airside, see the aircraft at the gates. You can even see the car park from up here, which I find to be quite incredible. And yes, like a geek, we can in certain scenarios by the airport. Even in normal rules, given enough altitude, you might be out of their immediate airspace, so you're fine. But even then, we're flying an uncontrolled flight right now, so we're all good in terms of rules. We're not breaking any in the simulator, at least. And it makes for some pretty nice views, and this flight is all about having a good time, after all, enjoying the sights. Continuing the climb, we're coming up to 4,500 feet here, which means we'll soon be at our cruising altitude. And once we're coming over some of the islands in the Juan de Fuca Strait, we'll begin our descent so that we're coming lower and lower once we make it to our first and only real waypoints over YYJ, Victoria International Airport. And we'll get a good view of Victoria and Saanich and even Sydney as we're coming in over that part of the island. So stay tuned for that. Earlier I made reference to the ferry terminal out of Tsawwassen. So there you have Tsawwassen, stretching highway out all the way to the ferry terminal just there. This here is one of the shipping ports where commercial ships will come and dock for delivering goods and taking goods from Vancouver. So we're reaching our cruising altitude, so we'll bring our climb flaps up and we can reduce our engine power accordingly to the right cruise setting. You can already see how close all these parts of the Pacific Northwest really are. You can already see the islands, even though we're still over the mainland, really. And for those of you who aren't familiar with the geography of this part of the Pacific Northwest, this little area here, this just chunk hanging off the bottom of the mainland, is actually called Point Roberts. It has a little grass air park, but nothing much in terms of an air presence. But the reason it's so significant is because this little peninsula here is actually the territory of the United States. This is America right here. It's connected in no way by land to the rest of the United States. So the main way to get there is via boats back over to Washington, or I should say the mainland Washington States. Obviously, you can fly if you have a small light aircraft from the air park back over to Birch Bay or the rest of Washington, or even some of the islands that belong to the Washington State, because there's a border going through all these islands in the Juan de Fuca Strait. And in some cases, those are the cases of schools and the like, there'll be even some school buses that, because of agreements with Canada, will pick up kids here, drive all the way through Canada, back around, then down across the border to the United States for certain types of schooling, which is really interesting logistical answer to some of those problems posed by being a peninsula whose only land attachment is to that of another country. But a little bit of a geographic anomaly that's a byproduct of British colonialism and American expansionism to the west in the mid 19th century. If you want to read about some of the things that took place in this part of the Pacific Northwest around these islands and settlements here in what would become BC and Washington State, maybe look up Pig Wars, because that's a very interesting episode in Canadian American history and just generally the colonial history of the Pacific Northwest. It sounds like an absurd name, but if you look it up, you'll soon see why it has that name. And it's as funny as it is stupid, is what I'll say. Definitely worth a look up. So, ladies and gentlemen, you may not be able to tell, or not that it really means much up here, but right now the water we are flying over is technically that of the United States. So, for this very brief period in our flight, welcome to the United States, and I hope you enjoy your time here. And we'll be re-entering Canadian airspace/waters in quite literally 30 seconds. And with that, folks, welcome back to Canada. I hope you enjoyed your time in the United States. From here on out, the entirety of our journey southwards will be purely in Canadian airspace and over Canadian waters. So, if that's any consolation to you, glad to hear it. Otherwise, there you go. You technically enter the United States for a brief moment there in reality. So, just want to point that out for those who are curious about the geography of this region. And just a bit more geography. This island here, this is one that has this little little hills over here and mountains, and then stretches all the way up here is actually a Galliano Island. And then right next to it over here is Main Island, and these are some of the islands closest to the Canadian mainland from this part of Vancouver Island. Vancouver Island being the much larger island body mass of land that we're heading to where Victoria is located. Alright, folks, and up ahead, just make out what is YYJ, so Victoria International Airport. We're just going to begin our descent down to 2,000 feet here, just so we can get a better view of what's below us. Alright, folks, and here we are now over Vancouver Island. You can just see Victoria International Airport right there below us. There's the passenger terminal right there, for those of you who are curious. Also got stuff like the museum over here. And that's right there is runway 9/27, which is their largest runway. This is the passenger connection for anyone coming to Vancouver Island via plane. It's right here. Unless you're taking a seaplane, of course, which is a whole different experience because you're doing what we're doing, going all the way to the harbor. So it is it's a bit foggy, but we can see the ground all right nonetheless. So we'll keep our eyes out, and soon we will see some sights, which I will point out to you when we get there. And if you remember from our first leg of the Danesh Memorial Flight when we went from Victoria over to Seattle, this right here is the Olympic National Park in the United States. This is all Washington State here, is these mountain ranges. And every time I go back, I cannot get enough of them. If you're ever in Victoria, go just walk on Dallas Road. You know, never mind the wind, never mind any of it. Just look at those mountains on Dallas. Enjoy the walk. That's my recommendation, if anything else to do in Victoria. So we're continuing our descent now, coming down through 3,000 feet, currently at 3,250 or so, making good progress. As we are approaching, I'm going to go ahead and adjust our altimeter to the Victoria Harbor altimeter, which is 3006. Alright, folks, so as we're descending down, just going to point out this large road under us, which is Highway 17. This is the Patricia Bay Highway, which is often used. It goes down towards Victoria, and you can come up it towards the ferry terminal and up towards Sydney and the like, and towards the airport, depending what you need to do. And right below here is this larger area here is Elk Lake, and it's connected to Beaver Lake over there, where very competitive rowing teams have been known to train in the summer here in Victoria. So just wanted to point that out to all you folks. Alright, folks, the other thing I wanted to point out is that as we're coming off the highway here, got this large area of grass underneath us and trees, which composes the Royal Oak Burial Park, which is where Darwyn is laying to rest with us today. And so now we're just doing a flyover for Darwyn. So if you're watching, everyone say hi to Darwyn, give him a little wave, and be sure to keep him in your thoughts. It's good to be back and see you, Darwyn. Switch tanks. Sorry about that. My mouse just bugged out for a second, so I couldn't switch in time. Here we are. No worries, and we're back. Alright, folks, as you can see, we quite good progress, and there is Victoria Harbor. So with that, now that we're at 2000, I'm going to continue our descent. Our power back a bit. And we're going to be going on approach. Adjust our prop a bit. Now I have control. So I'll level up here 1,500. Takes for a bit of a long approach. Power. And as we fly here, we're coming up on the area of Oak Bay, which is a pretty nice neighborhood in Victoria. Just flown over downtown Victoria itself. There you go, you can see the legislature here, Government Street, and that's the entire downtown area. Victoria. Just about now, off to our left, we'll be overflying Darwyn's home for all his years of life. So if you'd like to bear him in mind once again, thank you very much. Just now going to start turning, make our approach into Victoria Harbor, following the southern coast of the city. As you can see out here, we have James Bay off to our right. Alright, folks, and here we go. We've now got James Bay. Beautiful, as always, Beacon Hill Park right here. Massive area. And just along it, this little walk here, which is next to Dallas Road, which rings all the way around James Bay. Here we go. You can see the port for cruise ships, which visit Victoria quite often, actually, especially during the high holiday season. We're continuing now. We're going to turn in over the harbor entrance, right down into the harbor. Folks, and as we're making this turn, we're just going to cut our throttle back up and begin preparing ourselves for landing. Alright, folks, getting our turn onto final now. And there we go. And there we go, folks. We are down in Victoria Harbor. Wow. Rudder goes down. This can go off. And folks, I can't believe it, but we have made it. All those thousands of miles all around North America to every single place Darwyn has been, and back here 5 days later to his hometown of Victoria. I would really, really like to thank all of you who joined me for this flight, all of you who have read about Darwyn. You kept him in your hearts and your thoughts. Thank you all so very much. Can't believe we finally made it all the way back. And I want to thank all of you for keeping me company on this journey, for sharing it with me. And I hope that next year we can do the same thing or something similar, and that even more of you can join in and spread the word of the happiness and the joy that is Darwyn Danesh. Thank you all so much. Just as I'm pulling into Seaplane Terminal here, I'd like to say have a great day, folks. Have a really good evening, morning, or afternoon, wherever you are. And as I shut the aircraft down here, I'd like to say thank you once again, and I'll see you all very soon. Please share the recordings of this flight with any members of your friends or family that you think might be interested. And whatever happens, I'll see you all again very soon for another stream, whatever the aircraft may be. And I want to thank you all again just one more time. Have a great day, folks.